Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So it's Friday, so it's time for another market update where we take a look at what is going on with the spot market, with volumes, with rates for the three main equipment types, reefers, dry vans, and flatbeds. We take a look at diesel prices, of course, authorities, and also English language proficiency. And as a reminder, I have more detailed maps on my website, totally free, if you're interested in seeing that. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at what changed week over week. Ready? Let's go. All right, so starting with the net change in carrier authorities, we have gained a net of 82 carriers over the past week, meaning last week, as of last Friday. This week is going to be very, very interesting considering the rollout of Modus, and we're going to see what the numbers are like next week in next week's market update. All right, now English language proficiency. For May up to May 19th, we have a total of 1,160 out of service orders, which is a little bit surprising considering that we just had Blitz week, but yeah, it's lower than I would have imagined. However, considering that we had Blitz week, we will see that there is not a single state that did not somehow issue an out of service order for English language proficiency. Very often we have situations where states like Vermont or Delaware or Minnesota will not issue any English language proficiency. This time around, every single state issued something. As you can see, Texas being number one in terms of out of service orders and California being number two. All right, so now let's take a look at what's happening with those diesel prices. And unfortunately, diesel prices are averaging this week $5.65 per gallon. This is the national average. They're up 0.6 cents since last week, up 9.4 cents since last month, and up $2.12 since last year. So diesel still leaves much to be desired. Now let's take a look at the summaries, and we're going to start with those flatbeds. What you're going to see is that volumes for flatbeds have increased across the board. Rates are a mixed bag. Southern states, the southern region is the one that has the most loads, almost 49,000 loads. It's crazy. But yeah, a lot of loads there. Worst place to be is the West Coast. It doesn't have the lowest volume, but the rates are really kind of crappy going out and going into the West Coast. Best area, I would argue, even though the highest rate per mile comes out of the Midwest, I would say the southern region is the place to be if you have an open deck trailer. All right, then we have dry vans. Now, dry vans had increases everywhere, not just volume, but also the average rate per mile leaving the regions and the average rate per mile going to those regions. You can see that there is not a single cell, I suppose, with an arrow down. Everything increased. Now, best and worst areas. Worst would be the West Coast and the Northeast. I would argue best would be the Midwest for sure. Midwest and South for dry vans. Plain states are like, kind of like in the middle somewhere. But yeah, Midwest and the southern states are the best. Southern states have the most volume, and I still believe that this is because the flatbed volume is very high, and some of those loads that can go on a dry van are getting pushed to a dry van to increase the capacity, right? The choice of trucks. Finally, we have our reefers. Now, reefers, interestingly enough, all the regions experienced a decrease in volume, but the average rate per mile leaving those regions all increased, even the average rate per mile going to regions, except for the West Coast. Now, for reefers, the best area is for sure the Midwest. There is no denying it, as you can see. Northeast is not a good area. I would stay away from it unless you enjoy driving through the Northeast with the tolls and the fuel prices. The South is also pretty okay for reefers right now, as you can see. All right, now we have data versus experience. And honestly, I don't know what I should do in order to make these market updates more entertaining, especially this part, because knock on wood, the last few weeks and months, yeah, I mean, the experience has been pretty good. Negotiations are easier, brokers are nicer. It's just been a pleasure working in the industry. Yeah, that's pretty much all I can say. The diesel prices have left much to be desired. But again, like I say in every market update, it doesn't really matter because the rates that we see right now and the rates that you can negotiate, right? The rates you see in these market updates, those are posted rates. That's before negotiations. The rates you can negotiate are going to make diesel not an issue. I have been just sticking to the brokers I know in this kind of market. I'm very careful about working with new brokers. I like working with people that I know. I like working with smaller brokerages. This is just my strategy. I do like building relationships with people. I like people in general, and I love finding common ground. This week was definitely marked with, and this has nothing to do with business, but it has to do with the sentiment and how human nature changes. This week, I would say, was marked with a lot of humor with brokers. I love joking around. I love when they joke around with me. It's like finding that common ground. Obviously, I understand that when the market is such, brokers are way more receptive and they are way more friendly for obvious reasons. Again, I learned this hard lesson when the market turned after COVID, that relationships I thought I was building were they didn't really mean anything, but it's really nice to be in a situation where you're not fighting with someone constantly. So, yeah, it was just a positive week, I would say. How was yours? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining and watching. Wishing you a great rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep learning.